Hello, my name is Ma Biying, and my topic is higher education and long-run economic growth in the United States. And before start doing presentation, I will explain something about my presentation. The main idea of my essay is the causal relationship between higher education and U.S. current trend towards recession. I have learned that education, especially higher education, is not the issue that caused the current U.S. recession. But due to the limited time, it's really difficult for me to redo an essay. So whether it's true or false, the only thing I can do is to explain my thoughts of this question. But I believe I must do better in next work. Introduction. The 2008 financial crisis has passed 11 years. The U.S. GDP growth rate recovered to 2.6% in 2010 and maintaining a low growth between 2010 and 2018. Many economists worry that the U.S. will enter another recession. These fears are evidenced. Stimulating fiscal policy has been important to the U.S. economy in recent years, but fiscal stimulus policies that currently support the U.S. annual growth rate of more than 2% are limited. By 2020, the stimulus will be exhausted and the U.S. economic growth rate will be reduced to below 2%. After 2015, bank prime lending rates continued to rise from 3.25 to 5.5 between 2015 and 2019. Loan costs are more expensive for consumers and companies, which is not conducive to consumption and investment. To Trump's active trade policy, trade tariffs are increasing, and trade conflicts with China have also increased the instability of the U.S. economy. The stock market has continued to rise for 10 years, especially in the high-tech sector, which means a rising risk of collapse. On the other hand, the business cycle theory considers a minimum cycle to be about 9 to 10 years. Starting with the 2008 recession, it's now the end of a mid-cycle. And the goal of economic researchers are always to achieve long-term economic development. There are various factors affecting economic growth, including capital, labor, and technological progress. At the same time, capital is divided into human capital and physical capital. And the most important part of human capital is higher education, because primary education affects the labor productivity of society, but the higher education not only improves labor productivity but also contributes to the scientific and technological knowledge of society. However, university tuition fee continues to increase in recent years. It's difficult for students to bear the rising costs for higher education. This may reduce the number of students who continue to receive higher education, threats to the future development of technology and knowledge that determine economic growth. So why does higher education matters? In 1990s, Romer proposed the endogenous economic growth model, and the theory of endogenous economic growth model emphasized the enormous effect of two factors: knowledge accumulation and technological progress in economic growth. The simplified model consists of four variables: capital, labor, technology, and output, which are represented by K, L, A, and Y respectively. It also includes two departments, the production department and the R&D department. It's assumed to be a general function, so the production function of the production department of the expressed as this one, This one and the production function of the R&D department can be expressed as the following questions. And after the mathematical process, like this, we can get the final results that it can be seen from this endogenous model that economic growth is driven by technological advancement and is not determined by the rate of external technological progress. It's determined within the model. And the impact of higher education on economic growth is an indirect process. Investing in higher education can increase labor productivity, promote technological progress, and produce more scientific research results. Firstly, the investing in education can increase labor productivity and increase the effective supply of labor. Secondly, higher education is the main way to build research group people. Higher education indirectly promotes economic growth through technological progress. Finally, the accumulation of human capital brought by investment in higher education, producing the monographs and invention patterns, then achieve knowledge skill levels. With high tuition fees and insufficient government expenditure to decline registration rate of the higher education, it must affect the long-term economic growth. About the policy consideration, firstly, on the basis of the existing income, the government can comprehensively allocate resources according to the specific needs of various departments, rationally allocate limited financial capital income at the macro level. Second, increase government revenue, such as strengthen tax collection and management, especially for some hidden income, as much as possible, so that every tax revenue can be truthfully paid into the national treasury. It's also possible to establish a mechanism for cooperation with enterprises, and the company invests in advance for reserve employees. Then, while paying attention to the legitimacy of rationality of expenditure, we must also pay attention to the evaluation of the efficiency and effectiveness of expenditure. We should allocate resources rationally based on teaching and scientific research. Conclusion: higher education is an important factor in sustaining long-term economic growth. The accumulation of technology and knowledge generated by high-level education in humans has a positive effect on economic growth. The rising college tuition fees in the United States in recent years have made it necessary for students to bear unbearable education expenses. In the long run, this will not only reduce the country's future technological competitiveness, but also worsen the gap between the rich and the poor. Both of them are key factors for long-run growth. It's necessary for the government to increase investment in higher education, but the appropriate methods should be adopted, and the evaluation of capital performance is necessary. Thank you for listening.